Okay, this is a quick demo on just backing up your footage and then getting it into Adobe Premiere. So here you can see I have my SD card already put into the computer. There's this folder on it that says private. My clips are all in here wrapped up inside this AVCHD file. So if I double click on that, it'll open them up in QuickTime Player and I can see all the clips that I have. And first thing I want to do is just make sure I have a copy of this footage. So I'm going to take it and put it somewhere else. In this case, I'm going to put it on my external drive. I'll make a folder and say Mark's Production 1 stuff and put it in here. And this is always the very first thing I want to do before I start any editing is make sure I have a copy of my footage because I don't want the only place my footage lives to be on this SD card. I also don't want to edit off the SD card. That's just not good practice. So once I've got it on there, I'm going to eject my SD card. I would actually back this up to a couple other places because I'm paranoid about losing data. But now I know I have this copy of my footage all right here. So now I'm going to go into Adobe Premiere and make a new project. Can name it whatever I want. Mark Premiere Practice. And the important thing is just where I'm putting it. What I'd like to do is put this on my same external drive. There's my Mark's Production 1 stuff. And the reason for this is this way, if I'm moving from one computer to another, so maybe you're working in the lab and then you come in a different day and somebody's already on that computer, this way you always have all your stuff with you. If I store it locally on the computer, that works fine. It just means I can only access my project on that computer. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on the same drive. And I can ignore the rest of this stuff. Scratch this. I'm just going to check and make sure that these say that anything else it needs to create, it's going to put in that same folder. And ingest settings, we can actually ignore all of this for our purposes today. Hit OK, and I've got my project created. So the first thing I want to do is bring in some footage. Before I do that, so I guess it's the second thing I want to do, there's one setting I want to change. This won't actually affect us until we start recording audio, but it'll make life easier down the road. So I'm going to go under Premiere Pro to my preferences and select audio. And in here, all I want to do is just check this and make sure that all of these are set to mono. And the reason for that is when we're recording on the cameras we're using in this class, they record two audio channels, but they're recording two separate microphones in most cases. And I want to make sure when Premiere brings those in, it doesn't try to treat that as two stereo channels like a left and right, that it actually treats it as two separate mono microphones. We'll talk about that more in audio, just make sure you have that setting set that way. Okay, so now I'm going to bring this up. I want to go into the Media Browser tab, which is down here. You can also access it by pushing Shift-8. That'll take me there. This will show me my drives, and I can find where I put my footage. Now, there's actually a number of ways you can bring footage into Premiere. In some of the more advanced classes, we talk about some different ways that have different pros and cons. So the way I'm going to show you is the best way for the particular cameras that we're using, the particular footage we're working with, to make sure everything works smoothly. There are other ways you can do it, some of which will work fine, some of which may lead to problems down the road, but this is the way I'm going to recommend. So in the media browser, I'm going to navigate to that folder where I put my stuff, and here's that private folder. And here's that AVCHD file. Now in this case, when I click on it, instead of just opening QuickTime, it's actually going to show me the files that are wrapped up inside it. And you can see there's actually 6 different files here. So I'm going to select all of those. I could hold down Shift and click the bottom one, or I could do Command A, which will select all. And then I can either right click on them and say Import, or I'm going to go to the File menu, and I can do an import there, import from media browser. I'm I normally hate menus. I'd rather just right-click things if I can. So I'll do this, and we'll temporarily get a little bar coming up here showing that it's importing the files. And those files have now been brought into my project. So back down here, if I click back over to my project itself, right now I'm in the Media Browser tab, click over here, you'll see I now have all these files, and they are in here and ready to go. If I double click on one, the footage comes up. And then the last thing I want to do in terms of just bringing stuff in, once I've got all my files in, I want to make sure to save. You can always Command S just like any other program. Save that, and now I know that I've gotten all my stuff in there.